There are crimes that are solved in a matter of hours. There are those that take years. And then there are those that remain open wounds forever. This empty frame doesn't hang in an abandoned house. It hangs in one of America's most prestigious museums in Boston. For over 3 decades, these frames have stood as ghostly reminders of the night when history was, literally, cut out of them. This is not a story about the perfect crime. This is a story about the dark underworld, corruption, and justice that intentionally looked the other way. Welcome to the archive. March 18, 1990. Boston was shrouded in thick fog and freezing rain. Most of the city was celebrating St. Patrick's Day. The streets were full of noise, but on Evans Way, outside the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, there was complete silence. At 1:24 a.m., a black car pulled up near the side entrance. 2 men stepped out into the dark. They wore Boston police uniforms. Their badges gleamed under the streetlights. They pressed the buzzer at the museum's entrance. The night guard, an inexperienced young man named Rick Abath, looked through the security camera. The men in uniform told him they were investigating a report of a disturbance in the courtyard. According to strict museum protocol, the doors were never, under any circumstances, to be opened to strangers in the middle of the night. But this was the police. Or so it seemed. Abath pressed the button to unlock the door. It was a $500 million mistake. As soon as they entered, the so-called police officers ordered the guard to step away from the desk. They demanded he call down the second guard who was on patrol. Within minutes, both guards were facing the wall, handcuffed and blindfolded, led into the dark museum basement and tied to pipes. One of the robbers then uttered the sentence that confirmed their worst fears. "Gentlemen, this is not a drill. This is a robbery." What followed was 81 minutes of pure, uninterrupted vandalism. The robbers were in no rush. They walked through the quiet halls of the museum, knowing exactly what they were looking for. They didn't take the most valuable items in the building. They chose specifically. They went to the Dutch room. There they approached Rembrandt's masterpiece. The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, the only seascape Rembrandt ever painted. They didn't bother taking the canvas down carefully. They pulled out sharp knives, and brutally, savagely cut the canvas from the frame, leaving the golden edges hanging in the void. They took a Vermeer. They took a Monet. They took a Degas. A total of 13 priceless works of art. At 2:45 a.m., the 2 fake cops walked out the same doors, loaded the canvases into their car and vanished into the fog. The crime wasn't discovered until the next morning when the day shift arrived. Boston was in shock. The FBI immediately took the case, believing it was the work of amateurs. Who would steal paintings so famous that it would be absolutely impossible to sell them on the legal market? But the robbers were not amateurs. They worked for people who operate where the laws don't apply. For years, the investigation stumbled in the dark. Hundreds of false leads. Empty promises. It wasn't until 2001 that a confidential FBI informant provided a document that opened the gates of hell, and revealed how the artwork left the country. The paintings didn't stay in Boston. They were shipped across the ocean, first to Italy, and then to France, where they were, with the help of a corrupt New York art dealer, sold on the black market for over $25 million. But, who were the men wearing the police badges that night? It took over a decade for the names to start surfacing. David Allen Turner, and William Merlino. Their faces perfectly matched the police sketches made that fateful night in 1990. They were not lone wolves. William Merlino was the nephew of Carmelo Merlino, a high-ranking member of a deadly family within La Cosa Nostra. They worked strictly by the code of the Boston underworld. And according to that code, when you pull a job like this, you kick up to the boss, or you disappear. Their boss was a man named Francis Salem, better known as Cadillac Frank. He held the keys to this case. He knew where the money was, who cut the canvases, and where the paintings ended up. The FBI had him cornered. They were one step away from solving the biggest heist in United States history. All they had to do was press the right piece on the board. But then came the twist that is the reason the empty frames still hang in Boston today. The United States Department of Justice made a decision. Instead of pressing Cadillac Frank for the return of the paintings, they protected him. They gave him full immunity, and put him in the Federal Witness Protection Program. The government made a deal with the devil so Frank would testify against his Mafia rivals, Stephen Flemmi and the infamous James Whitey Bulger. In this political and judicial power game, priceless works of art became irrelevant. The government literally protected the men who orchestrated the theft. And what happened to the men believed to have entered the museum that night? William Merlino and David Allen Turner eventually ended up in federal prisons. Not for the museum heist, but for a completely different armed conspiracy case from 1998. They were never officially charged with stealing the Rembrandt and the Vermeer. Their boss, Carmelo Merlino, the man who could have confirmed the link between organized crime and the museum, died in federal prison in late 2005, taking the secret to his grave. Today, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum stands exactly as it was. According to the strict will of the museum's founder, nothing can be moved or changed. The empty frames must hang on the walls where the masterpieces once stood. They are a monument to greed, a monument to human audacity, and a monument to a system that chose to protect criminals over history. The paintings, worth $500 million, are likely lost forever in private vaults in Europe, or have been destroyed. And the frames in Boston, they are still waiting. Thank you for watching. If you believe history hides more dark secrets that need to be explored, subscribe to the channel and join the archive. A new dossier is already in the works. See you soon.